Alright guys, welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at the difference between an increasing cost industry and a constant cost industry. Alright, so this will always be given to you in the question, so I'm really walking you through something that you're just going to take as an assumption of why it's either constant or increasing, and really occasionally they might give you decreasing. The main takeaway, so our supply and demand curves in the short run don't change, they're the same. The difference is going to be the slope of our long run supply curve. In a constant cost industry, it's going to be horizontal, perfectly elastic. In an increasing cost industry, it's going to be slightly upward sloping, but still very elastic. And in the rare occasion that you are given a decreasing cost industry, it would be slightly downward sloping. So what's the reason or the logic behind each of these? And how does it actually work on the model? So let's start with constant cost. That's going to be the one that the AP test will typically give you, which is good because it is the easiest of the three. So the idea, we're in equilibrium here, supply and demand are in equilibrium, and let's say that there is an increase in demand. We could do decrease, by the way, it doesn't matter. We're going to do increase here. So we're going to shift our demand curve to the right, D1, D2, and we see that that gives us a new higher price, which we'll call P2. All right. In the short run, that means that all the individual firms in the industry, they get to earn some positive economic profit. Other outside firms are going to see that and they're going to want a piece of the action, so they are going to enter into the industry, causing the supply curve to shift to the right. Now in this case, what we're going to say is that the supply curve is going to shift to the right and it's going to intersect right there. And that basically our price started here at P1, went up to P2, and ends back at P1 where we started. So this is because we're making the assumption that this is a constant cost industry. So what is that assumption? So that's how you draw it and that's how it looks. So this is our first point, second point, third point. Price in the long run is on this horizontal line. So in the long run, the idea is whether the price shifts temporarily up or down, it'll keep coming back to the equilibrium price of P1. The assumption here is that when consumers, or when I should say firms, are buying the inputs needed because they need to enter the industry. So they're going to be fighting over the same pool of workers or the same inputs, whether it's agricultural inputs, grain, wheat, stuff like that. In a constant cost industry, we are assuming that they have access to perfectly elastic markets, meaning that when they all need more inputs, that they're able to get them and they are perfectly elastic. So in other words, the cost of the inputs doesn't change. The cost of the inputs is constant because they are being bought, they are buying their inputs from perfectly elastic markets. This is somewhat realistic when they're buying things that are perfectly competitive-ish. This is really typically an oversimplification, but it helps us in these questions. So the idea here, again, with constant cost, is that the firms are buying their inputs in perfectly elastic models, meaning that as their demand increases, it does not affect the price. So the cost of buying those inputs doesn't rise, so supply perfectly gets our price back down exactly to where it was. In the increasing cost model over here, we see this very similar, the difference, so we see demand curve is going to shift to the right. Wow, I drew that way far. And then supply curve, so the price has gone up, so what's going to happen is that some firms on the outside are going to see that, and they're going to want to be involved here. And so they're going to start producing this good, but you're going to notice a much smaller shift of the supply curve. It's kind of a funky one there. So we go from, I'm going to use black this time because I kind of messed up my red marker doing that before. So we go from our initial price here, up here to the higher price, and then the price falls, but it doesn't fall all the way back to what it was before. Again, this is because this is a more realistic model. The idea here is that as these firms that are entering the market now compete for the same scarce resources needed to produce this product, so the same workers they're fighting over, the same physical inputs, that's going to cause the cost of those inputs to rise. And so as a result of those rising costs, we're going to have an upward sloping but still very elastic long run supply curve. But you notice it's more elastic than the short run, but it is upward sloping now, so the price won't fall all the way back to what it was originally. All right, that's pretty much it. Hope this helps. This has been a LaMoney production.